Our original plan was to ride the TAT in Arkansas, starting in Lincoln on 410 and going to Helena on the Mississippi River and back, taking 6 days. We'd ride the official TAT on the way out and ride the TAT plus alternate/easier routes on the way back. On our way out to Helena, we determined that the TAT east of Beebe was just straight and mostly paved back roads. So we decided to stop at Beebe and turn back to Conway. There was also bad weather approaching, so we decided that we'd sit a day in Conway rather than riding through the wind, rain, and expected hail. So who are we? I'm Bill Luce, riding a Yamaha WR250R. Mike Welch is riding the Honda CRF 300L. Dave Callaghan's riding the Beta 500 RRS. And John Davis is riding the KTM 690 Enduro R. We were really looking forward to the infamous Warloop Road, and we were riding it uphill eastward rather than downhill as shown in most other videos of the Arkansas Trans-America Trail. It turned out to be challenging, but not as bad as we were expecting. Downhill would not even be much of a challenge. John was the only one to drop of our gang on Warloop. I stopped to get my nerve. Then I tried to start in second.
No.
Then I tried to start in neutral. And then when I finally made it up, I stalled it after clearing the ledge. What's going on, John? He's gonna have to drag us up this hill.
How am I gonna get up this hill here?
You actually started the right path, John.
I did, but I stalled going over this. And I don't want to go shooting over there.
You didn't see how I did it, did you?
No. Did you go there?
I went right here.
Right there?
I went right there.
That's not a bad spot.
Keep going, John. Don't try to cut too early. There you go. We spent that night at the Ozark Inn, really nice place, and then walked to a Mexican restaurant where Mike's brother Cliff joined us for dinner. We knew we were going to get rained on at some point in this trip, but we didn't expect as much as we got. Our second day of riding started in a downpour. The first 30 miles or so were paved, but then we ran across Ork General Store. We stopped to check it out, and someone ran out and offered us parking in the picnic pavilion. We did that and went in and had a great and very dry breakfast. Once we got back on the road, we immediately hit gravel, muddy roads. It continued to rain on and off all day, and when it wasn't raining, we were generally in a heavy fog. Much of our progress during the day was dictated by poor visibility rather than poor traction.
Because I don't think I was that close to it. I tried to stay away because I didn't want it on my visor.
Mikey's got a little bit. I got none, and John's got none.
What's that?
We're looking at the front. Look at the front of Dave's bike.
It's dry. I guess it's the heat on the headline.
On day 3, we had planned to go to Helena, but straight, flat, and paved roads along with approaching storms convinced us to turn around at BB and head for Conway, where we would spend 2 nights to wait out the storm. And since we were spending 2 nights in Conway, we decided it was a good opportunity to try and beat Dave's record of 168 ounces of beer on a motorcycle trip evening. I came within 20 ounces, but decided it just wasn't worth it. Here's what Dave thought of it. And as I mentioned, we spent the next day waiting out the weather to pass, and of course, getting over our hangovers. Our 5th day started with several miles of paved roads. Our food connoisseur Mike found us another locally owned joint to eat breakfast, the Bucket List Cafe in Center Ridge, Arkansas. The locals were a hoot and the food was good. Then we quickly got to the dirt. Again, we found ourselves on the wrong side of a swollen creek. We discovered a way around and headed off. We quickly came to a creek crossing. For this one, I slowed to film the other guys. This off-route dirt was so enjoyable, we decided to experiment and do more ad-libbing. That's taking non-tap trails in the area. Mike found this great uphill ad-lib track. I stopped to turn on the GoPro and Mike and Dave were gone. I'll catch them later. On another ad lib, we found ourselves in a trail made of rocks the size of babies' heads. We call this a baby head trail. These are tough to ride on, and again we were stopped by a swollen creek. I started the video to catch John struggling to turn his bike around, and then start back up the trail from the way we had come. I thought I was going to catch him dropping it, but he didn't. On yet another ad lib, I led us down a hill and eventually decided I better make sure the trail improves. Wasn't sure we'd be able to get back up. Yet another ad lib, I led us down a hill and eventually decided I better make sure the trail improves further down by walking it. Nope, it didn't. By the time I figured this out, Mike had joined me, so we each had to ride back up.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, this is the worst part, and this is bad.
Oh man, are we ready to go back up?
Yeah.
I started, and although I wanted to stay left, it didn't work out that way. All's well that ends well. The same can't be said for Mike as he dropped his bike, breaking the front brake lever into a shorty. He recovered without assistance and made it back out. That's one drop for Mike. Oh, and by the way, full disclosure, I dropped my bike at a gas stop in Hector on day 5. I tried to ride around the guy's stopped bikes and stalled it when I encountered a pothole hidden by water. No help in picking the bike up, as all were scrambling for their cameras. There were plenty of locals to witness it. Ad-libbing again, Mike found an ATV trail headed generally downward. Quickly into it, we discovered a tree was blocking the way. We decided to go around and continue.
Good. You look like a professional.
moving. I'm moving. Keep going. Here it comes. Right there.
We continued on and found ourselves once again at the Orc General Store. We stopped for a drink, rest, and gas. At the stop, John just decided he wanted to go ahead into Ozark and wait for our arrival at the brewery. The other three went on. We went on a scary, rocky, slick, ledge-filled track down for several miles. We stopped a few times to decide if we could get back up if needed. We continued onward, even though I, for one, was not sure we could get back up. It turned out to be one of the most fun trails downward and then back up. I failed to record any of it. A quick jaunt of pavement, and we were back at the Ozark Inn. Early on day 6, we started ad-libbing again, and we found another trail to discover. We were stopped by a steep downhill section that needed to be investigated on foot. Once we got down there, we decided to be tough to get back up, plus it seemed to end in a dead end at the bottom. During the turnaround, Mike dropped his bike. That's number 2 for him.
Oh, somebody go ahead and help me. I'm here, I'm gonna help you. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Come on, 1, 2, 3. Oh. Yeah, I think so. Dave, you got dirt on your face, man. Dirt on your face.
As we intersected Business 71 in Winslow, south of Fayetteville, Mike and John decided they'd had enough and were hot-shotting it to Bella Vista. Dave and I continued on the planned route into Devil's Den Park. The roads were paved, but nicely curved and hilly. We were cruising along, Dave in the lead with me directly behind him, when suddenly, on a straight section, Dave slipped off the right edge of the pavement at about 50 miles per hour. Apparently, he was looking at his GPS and didn't notice his position on the road. There was no shoulder, just a 6-inch drop to a steeply sloped grass, mud, and leaf-covered area about 10 feet wide, then a forest. I saw him hit the rear brake and experience the back end slide out and recover quickly. Then he was approaching a signpost. Dave laid the bike down at probably near 35 miles per hour and slid behind it along the grass and mud until stopping 5 to 10 feet from the signpost. He was unhurt except his pride. One mirror broke off and his face shield was scratched. No other damage could be found. We breathed a heavy sigh of relief, and Dave couldn't believe that he'd gotten away so easily. We continued the route for about 10 miles, and then we decided to hotfoot it to Bella Vista. The weather was nice and sunny all day.
It was right back on that rough bit that I came off the road.
You came a long way.
And it looks like I fell there and slid up to here. It was a nice soft landing.
You win, Dave.
Yeah, I got that. I nailed it.
Oh, shit. Did you ever nail it? Okay, I've been dinking with my GPS the whole time.
You've been waffling?
Dinking around with my GPS and hoping I wouldn't do that. And I succeeded.
I think I got away pretty lightly with that.
I think you did too. That was... You were going way too fast to be going off-road.
That's just what I was thinking.
Oh, man.
Target fixation.
Okay. I am... Dave, I didn't get that on video. Could you go back and do that one more time?
I don't think I could do that again.
I could see you skidding and your rear tire would go out and you'd let off and it'd come back. And then you'd do it again, let off, and then you just laid it over.